The teacher as professional student. They say that the best way to learn something is to teach it, right? But it's also on the flip side. Just because you're a teacher does not mean you've arrived. Does not mean that. As soon as you think you've arrived, you're probably going to start giving very stale lessons. And one of the things that's very fascinating too is if you were to read a passage, okay? Let's say you were reading Philippians and it talks about experience all hardships as pure joy. That's also in James. If you were to all of a sudden pause the class and say, this chapter, this phrase forces me to rethink God, all of a sudden you're going to start having them pay attention because they're also going to see that you're a student that's still learning as well. And if you really want to have a dynamic conversation, there was a few times this past spring with the high schoolers, we were doing the book of Leviticus, which is that's a weird one, right? There was a few times when even I myself, like, I have no idea what to do with this passage. This passage is literally about when you sacrifice a bird, make sure you rip its wing partially off, but make sure the tendons are still attached, but you make sure that the wing is separate from the rest of the body. I'm like, I have no idea what to do with this, right? But that's part of it. Invite them into the learning that you're also doing. If you come across a passage that challenges you personally, just identify it. You don't have to like resolve the issue between the two, between your perspective and what the Bible tells you to think. So for instance, in 1 Corinthians 15, it says, if there was not resurrection of the dead, Christ will not have been raised. We usually switch that. That Christ is raised, now everyone will be raised. It's like, actually, no. Resurrection came first in that sentence. So what does it mean to say resurrection was always a part of the plan? It's not that Jesus brought about it. You're like, oh my goodness, this changes everything. And just identify it. Like, okay, people, I don't know what to do with this, but here you go. By the way, that's 1 Corinthians 15. Go look at it later.